Final score from Lincoln last night: Nebraska 28, Colorado 10. Nebraska fans, you're not crazy. You were never crazy. Last night proved it. Also, has this Nebraska team in year 2 arrived under Matt Rhule? We'll talk about all those things right now, but make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Nebraska fans, y'all been good to us. We want y'all locked in. The best way to be locked in, if you have not yet subscribed, because a lot of you already have, is by subscribing to the YouTube channel and following me on the socials at JD Pickell on Twitter and on Instagram. So we mentioned the final score. To be real now, if you watched that game, it was never like even within 18 points. In my opinion, if you were watching the game, like Colorado seemed to wave the white flag pretty early on in this game, if we're just going to call a spade here. But on the Nebraska side, man, I'm a big believer in this, and I've said this for a while on this show. Show me who your head coach is. I'll show you who your team is about to become. Persona of leadership, eventually, over the course of time, will become the persona of your football team. And y'all, last night, say what you want about Colorado, but this was a game now that Nebraska went to Boulder last year and lost in semi-embarrassing fashion. Now in year 2, another iteration, another lap around the track, this was a team that was tough, both mentally and physically. This was a team that was gritty. This was a team that was clearly the more physical team. This was a hyper-competitive outfit. This was a team that was relentless. Like everything that you think about Matt Rhule, you saw last night in this Nebraska football team. You saw it actually tangibly go into effect and be on display in an 11-on-11 football game. That mattered in a big spot. If you're a Nebraska fan, that's got to feel good. Now, was it perfect? Absolutely not. There's a ton of room for growth here if you're Nebraska. There's a ton of ground to cover. But even with that being said, for it to be imperfect and for you to have a definitive win like that against Colorado, an old rival, and to run for 150 yards in doing so, and to have 6 sacks and 10 tackles for a loss on the night and to impose your will, that's got to feel good. Has got to feel good. To do it at home, much less, has also got to feel good. Now, speaking of the Matt Rhule brand of football that we just saw last night, what have we said about Matt Rhule too? Not flashy. It's not going to be this operation where you're scoring 40 a game. And there was a lot said about Dylan Raiola and what he brought to the table, and some of those things that got you excited about him was the flashy component. Hey, he kind of looks like Pat Mahomes now, from the body language to the number to the arm slots and the way he can push the ball downfield. Like, guy might be the answer, and he might be the answer. I think last night he was the answer in a lot of ways. But what he did last night was something that we've been saying Nebraska has been missing for the better part of the last couple of seasons. Someone that's just able to make the boring play. Like Dylan Raiola made some plays that weren't so boring. Now, so we're not overlooking the fact that he's rolling right, throwing left across his body and dropping missiles. Like, that was impressive. That's special. You'll see more of that throughout the course of his career. But like Dylan Raiola threw for less than 200 yards. 185 yards on the night. 23 for 30. 1 touchdown. A little bit of a touchdown that could have, had a different result, but good things happen to good teams. Here's the important thing. 0 interceptions. 0. In this game last year, you turned it over 4 times. Nebraska, this is who you are. Under Dylan Raiola, under Matt Rhule, and you're only going to get better. This is who you are. This is all it takes. And I said it at the top of this video. If you're a Nebraska fan, man, this has got to feel so validating. Because you've been saying this for the last couple of seasons. Hey, if we could just have the right coach in place with the right culture and not beat ourselves. Not give the football away like it's Halloween and we're trick-or-treating. Like it's just something we're giving to everybody. Hey, every single weekend, it's, hey, you get a candy, you get a candy, you get a turnover, you get a turnover. If we cannot beat ourselves, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Are we winning the Big Ten, winning the national championship? Like, I don't know about that, but I promise you we're going to be in more of these football games and be able to win more of these football games. You saw that last night. So, again, Nebraska fans, you're not crazy. You were never crazy. And last night, I hope, is in some way, shape, or form validation of that. Again, this is not a finished product. There's going to be a lot of things they look to clean up. There is, I think, also now the obstacle of how do you handle success, because now I'm talking about this on a Sunday morning. We got a good 6-day runway, give or take, where people are going to praise Nebraska and Dylan Raiola and Matt Rhule and all that. I think this team is going to be able to handle that. One, because I feel like I have a good understanding as to how Matt Rhule gets down. They will be right back to work. They'll be coaching it up. They probably enjoyed it last night and enjoyed it for the better part of these last few hours. But like when they get into that team meeting on Monday, it is turn the page, we're on to the next. And I think Dylan Raiola, based on everything we've heard about him, his maturity, the way he carries himself, the way that he attacks his preparation, I think he'll handle it well. But Nebraska, man, if this is the jumping off point, if this is the arrival of what this Matt Rhule brand of football is going to be, it's only going to trend upward. Why? Because that's what we've seen from Matt Rhule teams under their second and third year. Like the second year isn't even supposed to be the year where you really pop. We've just said for Nebraska, the second year could be the year where they pop, and pop in terms of like having a 8+ win season and, kind of make some noise in the Big Ten, because that's what his teams have typically been. But it's usually not till the third year that you really start to see the success that you want to have. But all has to be said, man. I saw them break the will of Colorado last night. I saw them, again, physically dominate Colorado last night from start to finish. Say what you want about that final score. It was never that close, and everyone that watched that game knew it. This is now a Matt Rhule brand of football team. This is a Matt Rhule style football team. How far do they go? Remains to be seen. But I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you can kind of exhale today and say, okay, everything we hired Matt Rhule for, we're starting to see this look like his team. Last year, there were flashes of it. Matt Rhule told us in the offseason the next step for them is the buy-in of going from Coach Rhule's way to the team's way. Looked like the team's way last night, which, again, embodies a lot of things that I think embody what Coach Rhule is. So, with that being said, make sure you're subscribed here. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Piquel. I want to hear from y'all. I want to hear your takes on this game and your takeaways in terms of what we learned from Nebraska and maybe also what we learned from Colorado in this game as well. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.